Atassi, co-director of our terrible country, and I am journalist and filmmaker coming from Syria.
Okay. The movie Our Terrible Country, how did it come about, and how do you know Ziad?
I met Ziad in the beginning of the uprising in Beirut. He came for a workshop on the media and filming that we was prepared in Bidayat, and he received training there. And we met on this occasion. We start kind of friendship. We belong to a different generation, but we was in common the uprising and Syria and freedom and all this kind of stuff, you know. That I met him there and we continued to work together. He did the small films, short movies. It's called Duma, and we helped him on the editing side, you know, this kind of stuff. And we later on we kept in touch, and when Yassin arrived to Duma, I contacted Ziad again, asked him if he can go and shoot with Yassin and start filming Yassin in Duma.
And then, what was the original concept of the documentary, and did it change over time?
As I told yesterday in the debate, that in the beginning we didn't know if we would do a documentary or not. It was about Yassin. He was, actually I tried to film Yassin when he was hiding in Damascus, but it was very difficult because Damascus is under the control of the regime. He was under the cover there. It was very difficult to reach him and to be able to work and to film freely with him. When he arrived to Duma, I was a little bit worried about his own life, because Duma was under the bomb of the regime, and at the same time I had this contact with Ziad, and I knew that we can film there more easily than in Damascus. Then we start to document, if you like, the life of Yassin there. We didn't know what he will do, and actually Yassin didn't know what he will do, if he will stay in Duma or will move away. Then it started like this, you know, just to have some kind of archive, visual archive of Yassin and Duma. Yassin as a Syrian intellectual resident arriving to what it's called liberate zone. But step by step, when he decided to move to Raqqa to take the desert area, Ziad took the decision to be with him, and you know, it was clear that we would like to film this trip, and that we can do something with that. When I saw the first footage, Russians coming from Duma, and I saw the relation between Ziad and Yassin, and something start to be established between both as a friendship, then I feel that we can do something around that. I was not sure about it. I wait until the moment when I was able to join them in Raqqa, and I saw the rushes of the road, the desert, and what Ziad he did, and start from here. I feel that Ziad not only a cameraman, but also a character. And later on, when we start editing, it was clear that he had his fingerprint on the rushes coming from Duma. That it's also his, in some way, it's also his own film. You know, all this part of Duma in the desert, it's very related to Ziad, his way of filming and making the interviews. You know, then it's like this that we start, and we ended with this film, Our Terrible Country.
So, why did they decide to go to Raqqa in the first place? What was there?
Yassin, you know, he felt that when his own city was liberated in the beginning, it was not clear that it's only the Islamists who will be I would say the leader or the master of the city. It was not clear that, because you had a lot of armed group, but he decided that he would like to join his own family and go to his own city. Why to stay in Duma? And you saw the film, he didn't feel himself in his own place in Duma. You know, he decided to go away to his own city, Raqqa, and from there he was started to traveling in all the free zone around Halab, kind of Government, Nobel, and other places. But on the road, the Islamists kidnap his brother and take over the cities, you know, and it was clear that he don't have any more place there. And he arrived and he hid in Raqqa, and he was waiting that he will go from there outside the country because it was no place for him in this condition in the Raqqa.
Right. So when he left, they thought it was still under control of the FSA, right?
I mean,
Raqqa. Part.
It was very mixed. It was not clear who is controlling really the city. You had some Islamist group. It was not yet really the Jabhat al-Nusra, you know, and you had the Syrian Free Army. Then, you know, he didn't know that when he will arrive there, the city will be completely under the control of the Islamists and, you know, Daesh.
Yeah.
And this is what happened.
Right. And how come his wife didn't go with him?
You can see it clear, I mean, in the road that it was no place for women. I mean, it was all this fighter and traveling in the desert, sleeping under the, you know, the tent and this condition. It's no way that a woman can travel with him. But also that at this time, Samira, she was able to go back to Damascus. And she was thinking if Yassin arrived safe to Raqqa, that she will go back to Damascus and join them and come via Turkey and join Yassin in the north of Syria. But she waited that Yassin he will arrive safe in Raqqa, but when he arrived in Raqqa, and Raqqa was under the control of the regime, of the Islamists, she wanted to be sure that he will be safe after the Raqqa, and she waited in Duma to be sure that Yassin he will be able to travel out of the country and be safe in Turkey. When he arrived to Turkey, and it was time for Samira to move and to join in Turkey, but it was too late because Duma was completely, you know, encirculated, I would say, on the siege.
Yeah.
It was no way to leave Duma, you know, anymore. Then she was stuck in Duma, and you can see it in the last sequence scene of the film, not before the last scene, that he was talking to her. She was telling him, now it's the embargo, we don't want any more food, there's no electricity, I am stuck, you know.
Yeah.
That was a little bit, you know, bad chance.
And then Razan, that's his friend, that's an activist?
She's a very famous, she's one of the most famous, important, that is not famous, is not the word. Important agent. She is the founder of the committee for coordination committee of local coordination committee, you know, the LCC. And she is a lawyer, she is a human rights activist, she is the Prize Sakharov from the European Parliament. She is very well known as a human rights and activist and lawyer figure in Syria.
And she disappeared now.
She disappeared now, we don't know what happened, and it's really dramatic for all of us.
So talking about ISIS, Daesh, and this came out in the movie a couple of times too. In the West, people think that ISIS and Assad are opponents, but in the documentary, both Yassin and Ziad kind of alluded that they were the same, because Yassin says, well, they never bomb this building, and then also Ziad says, well, aren't they like the same side? Is this true? Do you think that Assad and ISIS are connected?
I mean, for sure they are connected in one way or another because they have a lot of common interests. You know, they are serving each other, one the others, you know, in a way or another. But it's not mean that they are agent of the regime. It can be that some of them, they are double agent, you know, and the regime, they are playing with people from inside Daesh, but also they have their own agenda. But it was clear that from the beginning, I think until today, the regime, the rise of Daesh helped a lot the regime regarding the international community, regarding the Syrian itself, because he came back to his, you know, classical discourse about, you know, if it's not this so-called secular regime, then it's the Islamist. This is the alternative. Then stay with me, either we will get the must terrible jihadi. You know, and this alternative is, in my point of view, is completely false. Completely, I would say, fake. You know, like, I think Daesh and ISIS helped a lot the regime, and the regime, he knew how to use Daesh.
In what ways?
In the way that, you know, as I said, to earn some credibility in the eyes of the international community, and to say that there's no alternative for Syria and the Syrian than the regime itself, because other areas is Daesh, which is not true, you know, and also to delegitimize the Syrian uprising and all the value for what we went out in freedom, equality, you know, justice, and all this kind of thing. We try to say that we don't deserve all of that, and it's only when we have our freedom that we will get Daesh.
Yeah.
And this is a very simplistic and you know, in the way racist discourse. But what is terrible that some people in the West start to believe again on that.
Right. So, the New York Times says, and I quote, "The movie suggests that intellectuals have failed to guide the Syrian revolt." Do you agree with that?
No, I don't agree with that. I don't think that there's the role of the intellectual to guide any kind of revolution or political movement. The role of the intellectual, as I believe or I think about it, is to be critique and to have some political position or statement, but not to be a leader, political leader. It's not his job, you know. It's not his duty to, you know, to put the political agenda or to lead the people or party or a movement. It's not the role of the intellectual critique, or, you know. Then I don't agree with that, and I think our role is the role that Yassin today is doing, and writing and be critique and trying to be part of this huge movement by thinking and writing and be with the people one another. And me, as my role as a filmmaker also, is to produce film and try also to question myself and this movement, and to be in a way or another critique, and also to keep the hope for the future. But we are not doing politics, and we are not a political man. Then it was never a question that we be, that the intellectual it will be the leader, who should be the leader. I think the experience of the 20th century, especially when it comes to the leftist movement and all, I mean, every time the intellectual engage directly in the political life as a political man, it was a big catastrophe. You know, it's not because if I can say the war or the debate between intellectuals, it's about truth. But when you bring this kind of debate or around the truth to the political life, it means that I have the truth, the other he is wrong, and I will kill him. Or, you know, there's no way to find a middle place. The political life need to deal and to find nothing to do with the debate of IT or, you know, that this that usually intellectuals do in their own field.
Somebody said that Assad in the beginning of the revolution mostly jailed the intellectuals, effectively killing the leadership of the revolution.
Not the intellectual, but it's true that not only in the beginning, until today, every time you have a leadership or public figure, pacifist or really, if it's not secular, but popular or the credibility, who can present kind of alternative to the Islamists in their discourse, is completely arrested, put in jail, or killed, or put in, or sent away, I mean, in exile. Assad, he know, and the regime know that it can be very, I would say, they have a kind of fear from this kind of people, because they know that they can create a kind of alternative to the regime. They prefer to have the enemy that they like, and the enemy that they like is the Islamists and the jihadists.
Right. And that is useful for their image in the West.
Yeah, and they do everything to keep this kind of enemy face to them and to kick out the other enemy by kill them or put them in jail or send them out of the country.
So there's no alternative.
Yes.
Yes. Regards to the international community, the role of the international community, in what ways did the Syrian people ask for help, and since when?
You know, it's terrible, because I don't think that I don't want to talk on behalf of Syrian people, but in my point of view as an individual, I think it was a big mistake that we thought and we believed that we can get kind of support coming from outside our country, because we gambling in a very bad way. I think we should, from the beginning, only I would say contain only based or take in consideration our own force and weakness, and not looking for any kind of support coming from outside the country, because I mean, like you see today, Syria become part of the game of the nations, you know, and everybody is playing via the Syrians themselves on the Syrian territory, and it's a little bit problematic. But on the other hand, I think the major support coming from outside the country is not going in any way to the Syrian rebels or uprising, is going to the regime. If you look to the support that Iran or Russia or Hezbollah is giving to the Syrian regime, it's not only military or financial support, but also you have a foreign fighter coming from Iran or Lebanon and fighting at the same side of the regime. Then the real support, it's coming to the regime side, not to the rebel, you know. Then, but on the other hand, I think the Syrian, they tried for something like 1 year to keep the uprising peaceful, and they try to resist in a peaceful way, hoping that they can get not only sympathy but kind of support and pressure on against the regime to change something in Syria, or the balance of power. This didn't happen, and you know, the regime gets some kind of green light at the end, openly or indirectly, to continue the massacres.
I guess nobody wants to see regime change, not one of the world leaders.
Yeah, but to keep the regime also, we can see the consequence today with Daesh and all the rest. I mean, it's not only about Syria, you know, it's also about all the Arab Spring. It's so sad to see how, I mean, we, in a way or another, we give credit or to the Egyptian coup d'etat. Yemen is now under the control of Iran. Look what's happened to Libya, and it's only Tunisia in a way it's safe, as it's not true because it's the ancien regime is coming back, but via the election was great. But it's, you know, there's no real support to the democratic change of the Arab world, and they will get only the Islamists in the end. This is, you know, the only way to face this kind of jihadist and the way of thinking and this kind of fundamentalist movement is to support the real democratic change of the Arab world. And this is what started by the Arab themselves during the Arab Spring, but we didn't receive enough support and solidarity from the rest of the world.
Right, and then the United States conducted airstrikes, so-called, to fight Daesh, but really they mostly benefited the regime.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to see. I mean, not only benefit to the regime, but it's amazing that at the same time that the coalition is bombing the area where it's Daesh and the Islamic State, at the same time the regime is bombing the other area under the control of other group from the Syrian Free Army or other group. Then in some way they are doing the same job, but they are doing some kind of accomplish one the others, you know. I don't think that to keep the regime safe and to only bomb place where you have Daesh, I don't think it's a good strategy to help the Syrian people, because always benefit of all of that is the regime for the moment. I don't know what is the alternative solution. It's not for me to decide, but I think at least to make a real pressure that on Russia and Iran to stop sending arms and money for the regime, and to do a real pressure on the international level to not accept anymore that this kind of regime is allowed to bomb his own civilian people in this very sauvage way, in a very, you know, I would say, it's in a terrible way. It's in I think it's, you know, it's a kind of non-stop massacres since 2.5 years. He's bombing his own people. Every day you have, it become like ordinary news.
A what?
Like a detail, ordinary news. That every day you have 20, 30, 100 people killed by the bomb of the regime, and don't, you know, the people get used of that, and the rest of the world, like, you know, nothing has happened. It's part of the Syrian civil war, you know. But I mean, when you don't give the rebel the possibility to have kind of arm against the
air attacks,
the air attack,
air strikes.
You know, when the regime have this possibility to control the air on Syria, to control the sky, and to continue bombing, then it's no way, no solution. He will continue, no matter if he lose control on the ground, but he will continue to bombing and to, you know, put the civilian out of the country, and it's more refugees, more empty land, and, you know.
Well, Putin makes money with that. He's not going to stop. So in Paris there was an attack on Charlie Hebdo, and afterwards we heard calls from Assad to unite with the West to fight extremism. But Assad is connected with ISIS in many ways. They benefit from each other. So what are the underlying motives, in your opinion, to call for a united front to fight the common enemy?
As I told you, he tried to reanimate himself by saying he's a secular and he is ready to fight the terrorists, and he's ready to play again this role of the policeman in the region, you know. But again, I think the deep reason, the root of this kind of jihadist way of behaving and this model of talk and etc. is very related to the dictatorship in the Arab world. The best way to face this kind of model of thinking and Qaeda, let's say, model, and to make it unpopular, to make it less popular in the Arab world, is to allow and to trust the population that they need and they deserve freedom. I think the only way to face this kind of radicalization is to allow the Arab and Muslim people to have their own leadership, to go to free election, to have justice, you know, to have equality. And if not, you will continue to have this kind of criminal way of behaving, you know. And then I know it's terrible, it's unacceptable, we should all condemn this kind of act, but also is related to the absence of any democratic reform in the Arab Muslim world. Also related to what happened in some suburbs, in some European cities, also regarding the Islamophobia, the discrimination, you know, the employee, a lot of problems, social problem in Europe, you know. Every case is special by its own, really. But also it's pushed this youth to be more sensitive and more close to this radical way of thinking.
And what is the status now of the Syrian revolution? Where is it going, and do you feel like Assad can still be overthrown?
I believe deeply that this revolution, no matter if at the end will win or will lose, but it is a winner revolution. We win already.
What? Sorry, what?
How to say it in French?
Oui.
N'importe si la révolution syrienne perd ou gagne, elle est à long terme gagnante. Elle a gagné. You know, because I don't think this revolution, it will, and in the end it will be who would the winner, because Assad don't belong anymore to the future of our country. It's part of the past. It's a question of time and price. But we will finish with Assad. I mean, with all his crime, with all his stupidity, with all what's happened, he don't belong anymore to the future of the country. But it's, as I say, it's.
But he still will be in power, though.
It's for the moment, but not clear. If you look for the future, what will happen, he don't. Khalas, it's finished. He don't belong to the future. But it's a question of time and price. Will take some time. Perhaps we should pay a heavy price. We already paid a very heavy price. But then, to be more concrete, I think the only way to turn the page, to be able to turn the page, to go for a kind of reconciliation, kind of a new Syria, is to finish with Assad. I think he can't be part of the solution, he's part of the problem. it's then we should when we understand and we decide that Assad should not be part of the solution, we will be able to move him away, then we can find a real peaceful solution for Syria.
I heard that the opposition is now negotiating with Assad.
Some part of the opposition, but I don't think I can talk about, with my knowledge about what's happened in Syria regarding what was the heavy price. It's very difficult for a lot of Syrians today who lost friend, member of their family, paid a heavy price to accept to live again in the country where Assad is part of the political game. He is a war crime criminal and they should be judged, and this is so important for the reconciliation in our country. I don't believe that Assad can be part of any kind of future of Syria. He is the problem, in my point of view. Then if we will be able to move away Assad, I think all the rest, it will be much easier to find a solution than today. But this is my point of view and what's...
Who is the opposition these days?
Sorry?
Who is the opposition these days?
I don't know. I mean, who is the opposition? Who?
Yeah.
What?
Well, who is negotiating this? Who is the opposition that is negotiating?
You have different several parties. I am not, as I told you, I am not part of the opposition. I will not talk.
Okay.
They have the opposition, but this is, in the end, no matter who is negotiating or that is the question. If the Syrian, they will accept any kind of agreement with or without Assad. This is the question.
Right.
And I don't believe that they will. A lot of Syrians, they will not accept Assad as a part of the solution.
Right. Where is this movie going to play in the future? What is it going to be?
In several countries in Europe and South America. Will be play again at some country in East Europe, again in New York, in Washington next month. I hope soon in Canada and England. I'm not sure, but you know, he is turning every way, which is good for Razan, for Sabira, for Yassin. It's, you know, this is a story of Syrian activists. You know, we don't see that in the mainstream media, and it's important to push with this film another direction.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was great for me to show the film, to have the prize at Fit Marseille, and also again in New York with Jean-Pierre Rim. It's a nice occasion, and I'm so happy to be here. Just one word about the film. Later we'll have discussion. It's a little bit difficult to me to show the film and to travel in the several festival because it's nice. We had a several prize, me and the co-director Ziad Hamsi, but at the same time the film tells story about people, about human being, and the real story continue, and in a very dramatical way. Then it's nice to be in the festival to celebrate some prize, but this is the reality in Syria. This is a friend, people in the film, the real story continue, and this is also the story of a lot of Syrian people today. Then later in the discussion we can talk about Samira, about Yassin, the major character in the film, the important character in the film, but I mean, I'll prefer to not say a lot about the film later. Thank you.
Jean-Pierre, one thing that was very striking in this year's edition was a number of strong films from Syria, including this one. There were a few others. Could you talk about that, and then what perspective you could offer about this film?
Well, I think Syria has always been producing film before the war. It's been a strong film place. I remember being in Damascus for a film festival there. It was very moving. So, then I think also, of course, the situation provides some obvious emergency and need for filmmakers to testify. And in fact, I've known Ali for some time because I had a chance to see his prior films, Waiting for Abu Zaid, also prized by the way. And I think Ali angle is comparable in both films. I don't know if you agree, Ali, but it's portraying people, let's say intellectuals, and their position in this agitated times. Paradoxical position most of the time. Is an intellectual someone who needs to be in action? Does he need to be home? And what happens when he cannot be home? So I think it's not only about, of course you're right, David, there were 3 films from Syria. But actually one was made half in Paris, it was Silver Water, self-portrait Syria, and one was made also from a producer that now lives in Germany. So I think Ali's film for me is very important, and the fact he was prized by also a jury whose president was no other than a very, maybe one of the most important filmmaker living today, who's Wong Bing, Chinese filmmaker. Yeah. And I think that was significant for me because, yeah, the questions that are put in the films are they're very entangled, and, but I think Ali has very obviously more to say.
Yeah, thank you, George. So yeah, I think it's for me the work regarding the role of the intellectual and questioning this role. It's in some part it's questioning the intellectual and myself because I come from writing background, and it was part of all my films. I did 3 films, 4, and it's true with what Jean-Pierre said about also Waiting for Abu Zaid. It's this relation between writing, thinking, and the reality, and it's always problematic.
Yeah.
And I try to approach that in all my film, but in particularly in this film with Yassine, it's also about what Jean-Pierre said about its emergency. I can call it cinéma d'urgence, emergency cinema, which is mean that when the reality becomes far more stronger than any fiction, but it's in a very speed way. You can't prepare yourself in writing proposal and synopsis and to do films. You should take your camera and start to work. But it's not me when we talk about emergency that you make concessions regarding contents or regarding the artistic aspect. It's mean that you should deal with this new condition in a different way and try to give something else. And I think behind all this work it can be shown in the beginning as a journalistic work, especially with Ziad when he started to work with Yassine, and later on his frame and the way of moving with the camera it changed because his relation with Yassine changed in some way. But behind all this work we had some reflection regarding what to do with violence, with violent image, what to do with our own country in the time of war. And I think Syria and what happened in Syria, it was a turning point regarding YouTube and everything that was putting live. And it was very problematic for us because, Syria became part of the news, but in a very violent way, and the real story of the people, the ordinary people, what was putting out of the mass media. And I think for a documentary filmmaker, for the documentary films, it's important to bring other stories and to show it in a different way. Then behind this work, it was paid for us. We had a lot of Russians, by the way, with a very violent, very, I would say, actions. We decided to not show anything about that, and to try to approach this reality in a different way. And I think also this is particularly the difference between our work and other senior filmmakers, because they choose other angle and different, but we decide to do that. And again, to come back to this idea of cinema d'urgence, we didn't, in the beginning when we started to work, when I asked Ziad, he was in Duma, to start shooting with Yassin, really we didn't know if we would do a film or not. Yassin had just arrived there, and I was scared for his life. He's a friend, and Duma was under the bombing of the regime. Then we started shooting, and we didn't know who would be the director, it would be a film or not, but step by step, I understood that something had happened between Ziad and Yassin. It's two generations involved in the revolution in a different way, and they start to have a very strong relation, and I decided to go inside Syria and to join them and try to, let's say, to shoot or to film the relation between these two generations, these two men. But we didn't know that Ziad will be arrested by the Islamic State.
Right.
Yeah. You know, all this, the reality is always going faster than what we are doing. And in the end, we decide that what we have, we should do something with it. It was, we start writing the film and doing the film. Then it's not very, let's say, classical way of preparing and shooting and editing a documentary film. But I think this is connected to what happened in Syria and the rule that we think that filmmakers and documentary cinema should do. It's not about propaganda. It's not about sending a political message. It's about preserve our memory, bring the everyday story of other people to the screen.
Yeah, I was going to say that we're still used to only seeing images of violence, of violent moments, and the kind of surreal nature of the daily life that you capture is such, something that's so valuable about this film. It's also odd, like a little odd that it had the structure of, it's so cinematic. You stumble into a story that is so cinematic in a way that it's a road movie.
I mean, it is a road movie, but it is the reality. I mean, this is
it's not Road to Morocco, exactly.
But they went to via the desert.
Yeah.
It's in another way, it's where Yassin, he talked about the Odyssey. This.
Right.
Yeah. And in some way he say it like this, but this is also, he was going to the Raqqa, but the Raqqa, the city of Raqqa, become more and more far, and no way to reach. It's not another kind of Odyssey, and this traveling, it continued today. And it didn't reach the real Raqqa. It changed. It's now under the control of Daesh, but he's in a way of continually traveling. I would say non-stop traveling. This is another. I think this is a road movie, but we didn't decide that the reality it was.
Right. No. Could you just talk a bit, and open it up to the audience, but just how you got this film made? What were the production circumstances of sort of support? I mean, I think it's such a personal film.
And I can say, I mean, the film now had a lot of success. He went to several festivals, get several prize, but we did this film without any, I would say, subvention, coming from any fund or any production house. But we did it with with Bidayat, as a kind of collective of young filmmakers. I am part of it, and I mean, I'm scared to say what is the budget of the film, because I said because it can be only a salary for editing a man in New York, or we did it in a very small and thin budget, and for me it's important. No, I mean it costs a little bit because for the post-production, the coloring and the sound mixing and all that. But all in all, it's only $25,000. $25,000. It's I think when it comes to production of documentary film, it's not a big amount. And I didn't get any. I mean, but it's still also about that it's possible today to do something alternative without being and the reality itself, it's, you don't need it. I know that for some people, I remember, I mean, it's not in the classical way of doing documentary or shooting, but it's part of the story of the film.
Yeah.
If you look how it started with Ziad, when he started, he was a citizen journalist. He was shooting in a very far away way of questioning and doing, but still, with the time and it changed. And when he was able to shoot with a professional camera, like in Turkey, we did it. It was difficult. Just to give you an example, when you travel for 3 weeks in the desert without electricity, then you have 3 batteries, small batteries. And you should know when you should put on your camera and make a break, or you should stop the camera. And this is also what is mean working in urgent or emergency situation, that you don't have this luxury to shoot like this. You have a digital technology that you don't have electricity, you don't have a computer to make a backup to the, then in a very difficult situation. And this is why we had a small camera with 3-4 battery, and Ziad, I was not with Ziad. Ziad, he decided what he should shoot and why, and it was his relation with Yassin, Then I can say that this is a 2 film in 1 film, because in some way, Ziad, he was in charge of the first part in Ghouta and the route, and the other part when I come to Raqqa and I start shooting, and then Ziad, he become character in the film. He was not so happy of that. I understand, but it was his own story in another way, and he was arrested, and we feel like we need some distance, and but he accepted it. Then is it again also it's about what is the role of the filmmaker, what is the role of the character, how to have distance, because I think also it was not easy for me to work. Yassin is a friend, but I don't want to make a geography of the Yassin, then to keep distance and to try to show all the difficulty and the contradiction of what we want to do and the reality. And I think we tried in the film, especially in 2 scenes when they clean the street, and you can see the problem with the local people, and in the restaurant, you can see that being intellectual does not mean that you are always welcome between the ordinary people.
Right.
And I can say one other thing about all that it's, in the fiction we talk about mise en scène, how we say that? Staging, and in documentary, staging people is, at least for me, it's not good. It's not the way of working. But we can allow ourselves mise à condition.
La phrase complète.
C'est-à-dire à la place de mise à
mise en scène, mise à condition. Put under conditions.
Which is mean that I decide that we should take Yassin to a place where he will meet the ordinary people.
Right.
And I didn't know that this is mise à condition, but I didn't know when something will happen. I feel that something can happen.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell that to Yassin. I took him to the restaurant, and something happened.
Yeah.
But we did several other things, and nothing had happened.
Right.
And this is also the way of working on documentary film compared to fiction in my point of view, you know, that it's not only to have the camera, sometimes we should push in some direction, but without any staging or asking the character to play a role or to be, and all the challenge that is that the character and the personage, they not forget the camera, but let's say that the camera become the medium or intermediate between who is behind and who is face of the camera, and you know that we are not playing a role staging for the camera. The camera is part of the disposition.
Yeah. How long did you shoot for? How was your shooting period?
With some interruption because when Ziadi was arrested, I mean, and but all in all 7 months, but not but all the duration. Yes.
Okay, let's take some questions from the audience. Raise your hand. Right down here.
In the city of Aleppo, do you have any idea how much damage has been suffered by the souk or the citadel or the museum? Have they all been damaged or destroyed?
All of them.
I mean, it's a difficult question because, by the way, I decided from the beginning of the uprising to not look anymore, not only to violent video about the human being, but especially about Aleppo. The city means a lot for me. I think it's part of the heritage of humanity. And to say the truth, I'm very shocked by the no reaction from the international community when it comes to Aleppo. Aleppo is the oldest city in the world. It's, you have, it's all the religion is there. The old city you have synagogue, church and mosque. It's a wonderful heritage. And when I saw what happened in the world when the Taliban, they destroyed the 2 statues of Buddha, and all the reaction, and it's important the reaction against this kind of sabotage and crime, but nothing about the old city of Aleppo. And sometimes I say it's our responsibility as a Syrian that to talk about that, but at the same time, I'm a little bit surprised that regarding the international community regarding UNESCO, because Aleppo it's on the list of the historical city protected by the UNESCO, nothing happened. I know that the regime is bombing Aleppo with the with the bomb. Then the old city is very, very damaged. But I don't have any detail. I'll stop looking. But thank you to ask the question.
Okay, over here.
What can you say about Samira's abduction, since it happened before the end of the film, but it's not depicted or shown or even discussed at all in what we see?
The question was about Samira's abduction.
Yeah, I mean, kidnapping, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes. Really, we don't know anything about what happened. We suspect some Islamist group in Duma, they kidnapped Samira and Razan. And since we don't have any news, not one traces about what's happened, and we don't know if they are still alive or no. We believe and we hope that they are still alive, but nothing, we don't have, and it's very difficult for Yassin. By the way, he don't like the film. He don't like to see the film. I understand him. It's very hard for him. But it's very difficult also that he don't know what's happened to his wife, to his best friend also, Razan. And, it's very difficult for all of us. And then for that, I was saying in the beginning that it's hard for me to see, to travel with the film, to go to principal, but at the same time, it's important for me and for us because like this we can bring the story of Razan and Samira to the rest of the world, and, you know, and that's all.
Has he seen the whole film?
Sorry?
Has he seen the film? Yeah.
He saw the
He
film, you know, but he don't like to see him again because
Yeah.
it's, you know, it's his wife, and it's
His wife is there.
I guess.
Yeah. Right over here.
Yes, I have questions that from the word you say. By the way, we are all Syrian, from Syria.
أهلا
We live in
وسهلا.
the United States. أهلا وسهلا فيك. So we will understand the language even before it's translated down there. But you said that you made the film is not for propaganda or any political message. So when we document such a thing like that, which is you mentioned a very important point on that film, between the two generations and how the revolution started and how it's ended up with ISIS and all this extremists. So what the message that you want to deliver with this movie first, and what kind of a film do you think that we must continue? It's like we are today in New York, in front of audience that from different countries. Actually, we haven't delivered our message to the media in a proper way because the regime know that they're fighting us back with the media, and they present themselves that they are helping the Syrian people and fighting the extremists, which is a wrong message because this is not right from the beginning. The revolution was really for the Syrian people. So what do you mean with this? You filmed that movie for 8 months. You exposed for many different incident and circumstances. So what the message actually you want to deliver if you don't want to have it for political message?
Yeah, I mean, several messages, but it's not my role to give a political message. I think I try to edit and to direct the film in a way that I think the message is clear. And at least for me to make this film with Ziad and to be able to show it, it's an act of resistance.
Exactly.
And an act of resistance in the sense that we Syrian people, we are here, we still have a hope, at least we produce something, we deliver some, message, but all the detail about, very direct political message, I leave to the people here in New York or in other place to interpret it as they want, but I think it's clear what this regime did to us and what kind of destruction, violence, and etc. I mean, I don't want to give any political speech. It's enough to shoot in Duma and to show the rest of the world what he did to this city, and don't need more explanation.
Go ahead.
And I think also that the idea that a film should deliver one specific message, in a way, is really questionable. And I think the film is trying to, and it makes it to show someone, right, first, or
yes,
tell people. But let's say Yassine, and this is why I think they chose him to film when he's sleeping, or even in the restaurant and what happens. So it is just not to portray him as a man, but it's also to say there are complexity. Complexity is life itself.
yes,
Right? So the political message on one hand would be, in a way, something dead,
Yeah.
right? And I think cinema is trying to put life or to embrace
Yes.
life. So for me, the film here is life against death.
mm-hmm. Yes.
And this is not really a message; it's much more than a message.
Yes.
Right.
No, I agree, but because he
No.
mentioned this in his speech,
Yeah,
which is I really appreciate that film, and thank you so much. We
Yeah.
need more, but we want to think about what kind of message we want to deliver when we expose it to the other
I
country
think
or
the
the
most
city.
important message is to tell the rest of the world that we are human beings,
Yes.
like the rest of the world.
Thank you so much.
And sometimes people, they forget that. And it's terrible to say it, but I will say it. When we had a chemical attack in the Ghouta, and this first image started to come from Ghouta, and one of the images was the animals was killed by
Also,
the, and I looked to the photo, I said to myself, suddenly, perhaps us better than the human being killed, because the animal, in the eyes of the rest of the world, they are innocent. But we as a Syrian, sometimes it's complicated because we are Islamists, I don't know what, then, you know, it's terrible to think like this, but in some way, it can be like this. Then this is the rule of this kind of war, to tell the rest of the world that we are here and we are human and we deserve life. And that's it. And this is cinema.
Just thank you.
Yes. Oh, go ahead. Yeah. Were you fine?
Yeah, I mean,
thank you for this beautiful movie.
Go ahead.
You really made us feel your passion, your love, and your pain, which we felt during this movie with you. But I had a little problem with the title of the movie in Arabic. See, بلدنا الرهيب.
Yes.
And it means, I feel that you're really concerned about your country, which you all obviously are. But in French and in English, it doesn't sound the same way. Saying our terrible country, I don't know, I just didn't really render justice to the title in Arabic.
Yeah, I mean, you are right, but first of all, we did this film for the Syrian and for the Arab, and after for the rest of the world, and the translation make it bigger. But as Yassine who used this word in his text, and the film end with this quotation from the. Then we decide to keep this title. I know that in French or English it's a little bit problematic, but still, just let me because I remember one thing about. As I think it's important to say it today also. Some people tell me that Yassine as a writer, as an intellectual, is not shown enough in the film. And I think it's true, but I didn't make a film about Yassine as a writer, as an intellectual, but as a human being. And I decided to give a part or space in this film to Yassine as a writer, in the way, because when he went out to Istanbul, to the Turkey, he wrote a piece and he published it in a newspaper. The title, it was, in any case, it was a famous piece. And I asked him to read this piece, and I used his voice as a voice off, which is a little bit strange, because it's not my voice off, right. His voice off. And this is the part of Yassine intellectual in the film that I allow him to say his own version as an intellectual, as a writer, by his voice off in the film. And that's all. I didn't use my voice off. And this is the place or the space that I left for Yassine as an intellectual in the film. I don't know if I succeed, but I decided to make it like this.
Go ahead, sir.
This situation in Syria is no longer domestic. Ziad said we were originally fighting the regime. Now we have 1,000 enemies. So who are these 1,000 enemies? Egypt is involved. Turkey is involved. Our own country is involved. There's plenty of blame to go around, and I kind of think that if any discussion comes out of this film, it should at least recognize how this situation has expanded. It also involves Iran, it involves Russia. It's a kind of a big deal in terms of geopolitical strategy. So I feel a little disappointed that the film didn't, since it's so recent, didn't at least explore the huge dimensions surrounding this war.
Yeah, thank you for your question. Actually, I think you are right when you talk about this proxy war on Syria and how all this game of nation around Syria. And the big problem with all this game that the forgetting actor in all of that is the Syrian people. And I think the rule of this film is to remember the audience that we are here and we went against Assad for our freedom, and we pay the price, we continue to pay the price. Today, when we talk every way about ISIS and what they did to the hostage, and how they killed the journalist, etc., but this criminal, they start by killing my own people. And we was the first who paid the price. In Raqqa and other places. And the Yasin brothers or Ziad, they paid the price. Then for me what is important is to bring this forgetting or missing actor to the reality, we as a Syrian or part of the Syrian people. But all the rest, it's not the role of my film. It can be in the BBC, on the reportage, or on the news debate, but not for documentary cinema in my point of view. But I understand your concern, but this is not my role as a filmmaker.
Could you? Okay, well, go ahead, Jean-Pierre.
No, I think, first of all, when Ziad said that, he's talking about insiders, if I'm right. And also, I don't think Syria is the topic of the film. I don't think this film has a topic, surprisingly. I think it's welcoming some people that are involved in today's history now. And I think that's the strength and the uniqueness of this film. Again, Syria as a country and its history is not, I would say, just a topic. So it's not giving information on the role of other nations, It's much more, let's say, close and also violent than just to give some info.
What is important for Yasin, I think, and we talk together, he know that this is my film and not his film. And this is our film, me and Ziad, and not his film. This is our way of looking to Yasin. He can feel comfortable or uncomfortable with that regarding some scene, which is normal, because it's not his way to looking to himself. But I think what we did when we get the prize at Film Marseille or later in Montpellier or in Brazil or other places, that we always dedicate this prize to Samira and to Razan, because to their memory, to hope that they will come back to us. And I think this is the thing that it make us and make Yasin, I am sure about it, we talk about it, feel that this film can help in some way. It's not only about cinema, it's about festival, about prize, but also about real person and their life and their destiny. And it's try to bring this story to share it with the rest of the world. It's important. And that's all, but I can't say more. I don't want to talk on behalf of Yasin. It should be asked. But as I say, he don't like the film. And for me, it's good. It's very good. Because it's, and I understand why you don't like it. But at the same time, I was not able to show the film at Film Marseille without the okay of Yasin. I went to Istanbul, I showed him the film, told him, this is my film, you can like it or don't like it. If you tell me that to not show it, I will not show it. He say, no, you show it, but this is, and this is the deal. I respect, and I respect him, and he respect my word, but, it's not his film.
Okay, I have time for two more questions. Okay, your hand went right up. Go ahead.
What didn't he like about it?
Oh, what didn't he like about the film?
He don't like himself.
Himself, yeah.
Right. He don't look to himself like this. And what he don't like, I think, this is my interpretation. He is more looking to himself as intellectual. And it's not show enough in the film. He saw that when he decided to, let's say, to play the game, to accept the camera and so that we travel with him. He didn't know what we will do with all of that. He gave us the freedom. It was a kind of contract, implicit contract. But he didn't know what we will do. He saw that we do the film because he is a famous intellectual and dissident. In the beginning, perhaps we decide to do it like this, but in the end, we decide to look to the human being behind that. And I think it's more, in my point of view, it's more interesting than the intellectual. And, you know, and it's true that Yassin, he has an important role in Syria. He's very well known between the intellectual establishment, but as an intellectual, not as a human being. And this is the role of this kind of thing, to show the other side.
Can I have a question here?
Go ahead.
Yes, please. Are we going to see a sequel? And if that's the case, are you going to take the camera to depict those ordinary people, like Yassin, but from the other side of the equation?
What do you mean from the other side?
The other thoughts, you know, the people who are involved in Syria, obviously, you have sides, from different sides that are on the scene in Syria.
Yeah, but it was not the subject of my film, perhaps later.
I'm talking ordinary people, you know, just simply ordinary people.
Yeah, but I hope, but you know, I think the difficulty that Yassin had with the ordinary people, I can have the same, and I would prefer, I don't know how I will work in the future and in which way, but to come with my camera and from my class background, social background, to talk to the ordinary people, I think it's unsupportable as a situation.
Okay.
It's a lot of violence, power, and I would say disequilibre. Unbalanced. Then if I am able one day to think about all that and try to neutralize or take it in consideration, then I will be able to go and talk to the ordinary people and do something. At least now I try to use all of that as with kind of critique about ourselves as an intellectual or as an establishment. But I hope one day, but I doubt.
So a sequel is a plan.
It's not your job to make every film about the Middle East. You can make yours. But I really, this is an amazing film that you made, so I really want to thank you for being here and presenting it with us.
I'm so happy to be here. I want to thank you and the museum. It's a great place. I was so happy to go today and to look to all these images. It's our story in another way also. And I am so happy also to be next to Jean-Pierre.
Right.
It's an honor for me. And I hope that in the future I come back with other films. We'll see.
Great. Well, thank you so much.